So as I said, we thought we would open this up to everyone, not just our sales teams. And the reason is simple. The truth is we're all in sales. No matter what we do in life, we're all in sales, everything we do. If you're a life coach, you're looking to sell your product, your services, and find clients. Think about just normal life. If you're a father, a mother, you're trying to give your children the idea that you're a great father or mother. You're selling them on that. Remember when you first had your first love, your first boyfriend, your first girlfriend, and all you could think about was them, and you're on your best behavior all the time because you want to sell them on the idea that you are the one for them. You don't want them choosing anyone else. You want them choosing you. So a huge amount of what we do in life is sales. So I thought it would be appropriate for everyone. Today, I want to tell you all a story. And it's a real story. You can go and you can look it up online. And it's the story of a remarkable man. And I'll tell you the story. It's quite short. And then we'll look at the implications. What does that mean for you and I in real life? And the story is about a number of things. It's about leadership. It's about courage. It's about being a success, achieving. It's about trust, having other people trust in you. It's about determination. It's about adversity, dealing with adversity. It's about taking responsibility. And I guess more than anything, it's about persistence in the face of adversity. Now, if I said to everyone, everyone in this call, who wants to be a leader? Pretty much everyone would put their hand up. If I said, who wants to be a success? Pretty much everyone would put their hand up. Everyone in life wants to be a success. They want to be a leader. But if we look at it in the harsh reality of light, can everyone be a leader? Can everyone be a real success? Well, yes, they can, but do they? So yes, they could, but are they willing to take the steps to get there? That's the thing. And the truth is, the majority of people are not. So everyone says, I want to be a success. I want to be a leader. I want to be great. I want to be wonderful. But when they're then shown what you have to do to get there, most people back away. If we had time today, I would tell you the story of a good friend of mine, Richard Vardy. And I might tell you about my son, Christopher, and what he does every single day. And it might impress you. My son, Christopher, works for our insurance company. He's now head of marketing and sales. And last week, he had his record. He broke his record. I think I told Colin about it. Yep. He made 175 telephone calls in a day. That was his record. He had never hit that before. His normal amount, let me just say this, his normal amount every day is between 120 and 140. Telephone calls every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. And then I have people who think they're being really good if they make four or five outbound calls in a day. It's the difference between the also ran and the real successful people. So let me tell you the story. Let me have my drink of coffee. Back in the year 1899 in America. America were at war with the Spanish. It was called the American-Spanish War. And the president at the time was called William McKinley. And things at that point weren't going the way America wanted. And the Spanish were doing quite well. And they were fighting the Spanish all over the Caribbean and in parts of the south of America, Southern America and Latin America. And McKinley needed one of his generals, a general called Calixto Garcia. But they didn't know where he was. He had been out of touch for many months, and he was fighting the Cuban insurgents in the middle of Cuba, in the mountains, in the jungles, and there was no way to contact him. And President McKinley needed General Garcia. So he asked around, he said, I need to get a message to Garcia. How do I do it? And one of his advisors said, well, there's one man that can do it. You need to talk to Lieutenant Andrew Rowan. He was a scout in the American Army. So they sent for Rowan. And this is interesting. McKinley wrote a letter. He sealed it. He put it into a leather waterproof pouch. Rowan turned up at the White House. He met McKinley. They literally met for 10 minutes. And McKinley handed the leather pouch to Rowan and he said, take this to General Garcia. Very simple, very straightforward instructions. Take this to General Garcia. What was interesting was no one knew where Garcia was. And Rowan, what did he do? What did Rowan do? Did he say, oh, okay, where is he? Can I have instructions? Can I have his address? Can I have directions? Did he say, well, how am I going to do that? Well, you haven't given me the right training. Did he say, well, how much is this going to cost me? I need money for my train fare. I need a horse. I need equipment. I need resources. Are you going to give me all of that? Did he say any of that? No, he didn't. He just took the pouch and he said, yes, sir. And he set off. And it took him a couple of months. He traveled down through America. He got to the Caribbean. He got on a boat. The boat was attacked by pirates and he was captured and he was injured. He was captured and he was tied up and he was held for a few days. He escaped. He swam to an island. He found another boat. It took him to Cuba. He went into the jungle. He got attacked by local insurgents. He got captured. He was tied up and held for days. Again, he managed to escape and get the leather pouch back. He overpowered and killed some of the guards, got the pouch back, disappeared again into the jungle. He got bitten by a snake, nearly died, ran out of food. He carried on. Day after day, week after week. And eventually, he found Garcia. And he turned up at the camp of General Garcia. And he went to him and he said, General, this is from President William McKinley. And Garcia took the letter. And Lieutenant Rowan just turned around and walked away and made his own way back again. Absolutely incredible, showing such courage, determination. So let me share my screen with you all, if I can. Let's see if this works. So it's a famous story, and it was written by Elbert Hubbard a couple of years later when he found out. And he wrote this essay, and he called it Letter to Garcia. And that story was then published in the next 4 years, so 1900, 1901, 1902, 40 million times. 40 million times. So, an example of true leadership. So that's just what I said to you. Did he ask, where is he? What resources? What support? What money will I get? None. He didn't ask for a thing. He went and did the job and then made his own way back. Never asked for any reward. And Hubbard wrote, that paragraph at the bottom is what Hubbard wrote about him. He said, by the eternal, there is a man whose form should be cast in deathless bronze, and the statue placed in every college of the land. It is not book learning that young men need, nor instruction about this, about that, but a stiffening of the vertebrae, which will cause them to be loyal to a trust, to act promptly, to concentrate their energies, to do the thing, to carry the message to Garcia. Incredible story. So, what can we learn from this story? What does it highlight? It highlights incredible initiative, responsibility, and not just that, but execution, carrying the job through to completion, not doing half a job. They use this story in leadership training. They use it in the military. And it talks about the value of initiative. So the other big thing that comes out here is self-reliance. Being able to stand on your own 2 feet, not relying on other people to support you, not relying on an organization and infrastructure, resources, making things happen. Colin knows me. Colin and I have a very similar background. And Colin knows that one of my hobbies is adventure motorcycling. So I go off around the world on my motorbike, usually on my own. I've gone to all sorts of places: Mauritania, Sahara, Morocco, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan. Yeah. And I meet other men and women who are in that, I guess you'd call it a niche, adventure motorcycling. And I love those guys and girls. Do you know why? When you meet them, they are what I would call capable. They're just capable. They are resourceful. They're on their own, traveling around the world on their motorbike, no resources. Most of them have no money or very little, and stuff happens. Accidents happen, breakdowns happen, hurricanes, typhoons, and they just deal with it. They just deal with it. So they are self-reliant. And looking at, I won't read these paragraphs in front of you on the screen. And by the way, I'm happy to share this PowerPoint with you all. I created it 2 days ago just as a backup to this talk. And I'm happy for you to have it. Just email me and I'll let you have it back. But it emphasizes leadership, self-reliance, responsibility. And that is relevant today in the modern workplace more than any. People have become, I don't want to use the word weak because maybe that's not politically correct. I'll have to think of another appropriate word. Maybe someone can think of one while I'm talking. But people they've become, the generation today is different to the generation of our parents and your grandparents. They were resilient people. They just got things done. They got out there and just did what needed to be done. But today we seem to have people who, they need a lot more backup and support. So, initiative in action, execution over excuses. I'll always remember, and you've heard me talk about people, whenever I mention people, these are real men, real women. And I was proud to work with a guy called Peter Powderham many years ago. And it was in one of these network marketing organizations. big American company called New Skin, New Skin. And I remember I was in Peter's office in London, and he had all of his leaders there, and he was talking about what needed to be done, and he was making a list of actions and putting forward a development plan. And he said, I need all of you guys and girls to make this happen. And one of the guys said, and he said a normal comment, a comment that you and I might say. He said, Peter, I'll give it my best. Well, Peter nearly exploded. He nearly exploded. He went, what? And he was sitting behind his desk, and he stood up, and he's a huge man. He's over 2 meters high. And he stood up and he looked at this guy and he said, give it your best. He said, I don't want you to give it your best. What if your best isn't good enough? What if your best isn't good enough? He said, I don't want you to give it your best. I want you to give it whatever it takes to get the job done. Different mindset. Give it whatever it takes to get the job done. You can look him up, Peter Powderham, great guy. So there's a problem, you see. Sometimes we make the mistake of falling into the excuse mode. True leaders don't make excuses. They make things happen. So they talked about, I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy called Ernest Shackleton. Ernest Shackleton was one of the greatest explorers in the world. And you should look him up. He and his men went through the most incredible hardships on their journey to the Arctic and the Antarctic. Lost men, they died from starvation, they were shipwrecked. He went in a small rowing boat, and he crossed over 2,000 miles of open ocean in the southern seas in a tiny rowboat to get help to bring back to the men that were stranded. Incredible man, Ernest Shackleton. But before he left, he was asked by a reporter, if anything happens to you, how many of your men could step up and take charge? And he answered instantly. He said 1 in 20. Now that figure might resonate with you. It will resonate with Colin, because Colin here is the managing director of the Alpha Group. And the Alpha Group is called the Alpha Group because of the type of personality, the alpha type personality. And by the way, when people say alpha male, they are completely wrong. It's not alpha male, it's alpha type. It's the same for men and for women. And it is 5%. 5% of the world's population. What is 5%? 1 in 20. 1 in 20. So I started this little talk by saying, how many people would really want to be a leader? Everyone says yes. How many people want to be a success in life? Everyone says yes. But when you then see the steps you have to go through to get there, how many people are willing to take that? And statistics show, this isn't me, it's statistics show about 1 in 20. About 1 in 20. So it's interesting. So you can see that relevance to leadership, relevance to teams. Yeah. Applying the message today. The main message is really, would you have been able to take the letter to Garcia? That's the main question. If it was you, would you have taken that letter to Garcia? Or would you have said, well, how much money are you going to pay me? What resources will you give me? Where's my bonus? Where's my horse? Where's my car? Where's my mode of transport? Or would you have just said, yes, sir, and go and get the job done? You see, in life, if you want to succeed, and it's not succeeding in this business, in that business, and it's succeeding in everything. As a good father, as a good mother, you have to go that extra mile. You have to do things you never thought you'd have to do. And you have to take responsibility. You have to act with initiative. And you have to be the person that inspires those around you. You know, trust is a big thing. You have to be that man or woman that when you work with a team, you work with others, they have complete and utter trust in you as their companion. And they know that you will have their back. You're there, you will have their back. So finally, does everyone want to be a success? Yes, of course they do. Of course. Will they? Not really. Why? Because wanting isn't enough. And maybe next week I'll tell you the story of Richard Vardy and what he did. And I know Richard. And I'll tell you one of the stories of when I started in the insurance industry. And I'll tell you about the guy I was up against, Eric Stevens. Nice guy, good guy, great guy, much better than me. But he challenged me. And I'll tell you, maybe next week we'll talk about that. So, does anyone have any thoughts, any input, any questions, any feelings?
Good day, everyone. I do have a thought on this. Just an observation. The guy's story is absolutely inspirational, and I commend that. But if I were the president and I knew I have such a great asset with me, why would I put his life in danger by not sending some support with him? I mean, it's not like we do not have support. I mean, it was the United States of America.
Shazab, you're asking one of these questions that I can't answer. We'd have to go back 125 years. We'd have to speak to the man who is now dead.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll drop him an email.
I understand what's behind the question, but I can't answer it. But okay, but here's the thing, right? I'll leave you with this thought. When I do leadership training, I come up with a number of phrases and topics. But one of the things I talk about is focusing on the vital few instead of the trivial many. The vital few instead of the trivial many. And that is more relevant today than anything else. You know, today we get distracted so often by the trivial many. We get pulled away by social media, by emails, by all sorts of things. And we don't realize what we should be focusing on. And I'll finish off by just saying Pareto's law. Alfredo Pareto, Italy, 1890. You might know it as the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule. What does it mean? 80% of the value of what you achieve will come from 20% of what you do. If you have a sales team, 80% of the results will come from 20% of your team. 80% of your success in life will come from 20% of what you do, not the other 80%. So we must be able to recognize the vital few instead of the trivial many. The vital few instead of the trivial many. So you need to ask yourself, what am I doing? What am I focusing on? Is this really important? Is it necessary? Is this going to get me where I really want to go? And only you can answer that question.